Is the war on poverty turning into a Democratic war on Republicans? Liberals are now claiming that Republicans are taking aim at the poor. There's one headline after another. In the New York Times, an op-ed called Republicans Enemies of the Poor. In the Washington Post, the headline, the GOP's war on poverty. And Democratic Congressman Chris Van Hollen accusing Republicans of taking initiatives to throw more people into poverty. Republican Congresswoman Michele Bachmann joins us. So let's go right to Paul Krugman's New York Times op-ed. Are the Republicans the enemies of the poor?
Absolutely not. I think all you have to do is look at the president's policies, and that's all you need to know for how to increase more people on dependency and more people on poverty. And it's not working. The Wall Street Journal had a great article today, and they said that it looks like we are going into a European structural unemployment problem, which means perpetual high numbers of unemployment and low numbers of job creation. That's not good for young people. It's not good for anyone, and that's a problem.
You know, when I see op-eds by Republicans or Democrats on the question of poverty, one of the things I always do is I research, what they're doing to help. It's so easy. Republicans and Democrats sort of take, pot shots from either side of the aisle. I always look to see, like, are you even doing anything? Are you doing anything to help but take pot shots? Because poverty is such a serious problem in this country. And it's sort of interesting. I think that the Democrats have been very effective at making Republicans look like they don't care about.
Well, you can look at the big macro numbers, like the fact that we have fallen off the cliff for unemployment numbers from 2008 and today, but you can also look at individual people and individual numbers. In my own life, for instance, we went from middle class overnight to being below poverty, and it was through divorce. I'll bet there's a lot of people watching tonight who've gone through the same thing, where they had an intact family, they went through divorce, and the single mom usually is the one that's left in poverty. But each person has an opportunity to deal with that. In our own family, we qualified for welfare benefits, but my mom said, we're not going to do that. We're going to work through it. And that's one way to deal with it, on initiatives. But then there's also government programs, too, that actually do work.
Well, how does the Republican Party convince people who are been on who need help, a lot of help, that the Republicans are really there to help them? I mean, when they hear about them taking away benefits or fighting benefits, how do the Republicans convince poor people?
Well, we convince people by letting them know, number one, that we care.
But care doesn't get food on the table.
But a job does.
But how do you get a job?
President Obama isn't getting jobs, and he's declared war on the best job producer that we have in America, which is energy jobs. We literally could have millions of jobs right now. For anyone who's flown through the Dubai airport in the United Arab Emirates, that could be the United States of America. It's a cross between Disneyland and Las Vegas. We could have that kind of wealth creation here with millions of high-paying jobs. If you go up to Alaska, you've got a lot of people starting out making $100,000 a year in energy. We could have that all across the United States, but the president's preventing that. Those are real jobs that we could get started for Americans.
Well, we've got to do something about jobs. We can't just be talking about it anymore. We're talking about the poor.
Well, that's why Obamacare matters so much, because the signal that Obamacare has sent to employers is don't hire. The signal that Dodd-Frank sent to banks and financial institutions is don't make loans. So these programs send signals, and that's why we care so much about them.
Nice to see you.
Good to